Welcome, everybody. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Hope you're well. How are you, Delia?
I'm good. And welcome. We are excited to go live on this topic. We've had a lot of questions on this topic of
Yes.
just different popular fad diets and different influencers and what they have to say about gut health. Right now, gut health is a big topic. And so
Yes.
we've been talking about it for years, but a lot of other people are joining the conversation, which we like, right? We should all
Yes.
be interested in gut health since now research is showing the gut is really involved and infused in so many areas of our health. But not all the voices are, sharing a collective or always really I don't know, evidence guided type of
Mhm.
opinion. So we just want to chat today about what some of these different voices are saying, how they can be helpful, and how you can be a little bit more discerning when hearing some of
Yeah.
these messages.
And the title today is how are influencers affecting your gut, right? Like are they selling you alkaline water? Are they selling you the latest supplement? Are they, telling you to do this testing that is going to confuse you more than help you? We're all about test, not guess, but is this test $1,000 or you spent thousands of dollars on testing and they're getting a kickback from it? But there's nothing wrong with that. But does this influencer have your best interests? What are they selling you exactly? So that's the topic today. We're going to get into that today. Welcome to another Good Gut Live. This is Good Gut Live, and it is brought to you by Married to Health. And I'm James Marin. I'm an integrative registered dietitian, environmental nutritionist, and the co-founder of Married to Health, which is a integrative dietetics private practice.
Yes, and I'm Dahlia Marin. I'm an integrative registered dietitian, certified gastrointestinal nutritionist, one of the co-founders of both Married to Health the Practice and our Good Gut SIBO IBS program, which
Yes.
we launched in this last week. So we've had some early joiners into
Yeah.
our program. It's been exciting. It has over 9 hours of content of all things gut health with lots of different voices in there. We wanted to make sure we weren't the only voice because you only know what you know. So it's always nice to hear from different people.
Stop influencing others to join your
I'm
program. You're an influencer.
not.
Oh no. But what makes Dahlia different from other influencers out there? Well, let me just say, and that's, I think, a great starting point, which is like, yeah, we tell you about our program, we tell you about gut nurture, we tell you about our other dietitians, and we're essentially, we have influence, right? I wouldn't say we're like the biggest dietitians out there even, or I mean, there's so many health professionals out there now speaking on health and doing supermarket videos of eat this and do that. We've all seen it, right? And like, what's the difference? Who do you trust? Who do you like, how do you know what to listen to? What influence do they have on you, and is it a positive influence, right? And we would say the best way to discern is really just understanding the background. So for us, yes, I mean, you can get into like this, we can get into the schooling, which we've talked on before, like our undergrad and the internships. But a lot of us, and I'm kind of a subscriber to this too, where yeah, a bunch of letters behind your name and lots of med schools and PhD programs and all that doesn't mean you're wise, right? It doesn't mean you're even great with patients as well. So yeah, that's a metric, but that's not the end all be all. It's not to say like, hey, we're gonna now, just because I have all these MD or DO or RD or all these, again, letters behind my name, I know exactly how to treat you as a patient. No, because there's so many that come to us and go, my doctor just doesn't know what to do. My doctor hasn't helped me, or any doctor I've seen for the last decade, I feel stuck. I'm in the same place. So it is great if you have that education. We have that, like, I remember advanced nutrient metabolism class with Dahlia and sharing notes and being like, oh my gosh, we have to learn about like how B12 is made. And that was great looking back, like having that biochemistry and physiology, nutrient metabolism. Great. I was a nerd. I really enjoyed it. I remember being in the library with you, like writing out the graphs on the whiteboard and like writing the biochemistry pathways and like trying to memorize it. Very fun. Wouldn't change that for the world looking back. We'd eat snacks and I'd sometimes take a nap on the chair in the library. Great stuff. Um, all that to say that can be great, but you want to couple it then with
Mhm.
excellent patient care. And for us, excellent patient care is integrative patient care. Integrative patient care is time. It's time getting to know, well, it's time being an integrative provider, right? It's like if you were a traditional provider one day, you're like, I'm integrative. Great for you, but it's going to take a lot of time for you to then get accustomed to those methods and those techniques, right? So that's great. But really then being integrative is that time, years and years and years working with patients in an integrative fashion. Integrative fashion means getting to the root cause, not just treating symptoms, not just using pills or supplements or testing, as like, here, just throw this at it, but really taking time to dive deep, really taking time to understand, and then influencing a recommendation, right? So you can, yeah.
And I think it's so important to kind of step back and even really understand how influencers even became a thing and started influencing our health. Because I think we're in a really unique time right now in healthcare, especially where I would say, in my experience as a healthcare practitioner,
Mhm.
people are distrustful of our healthcare system in
Yes,
general. And I think that's
100%.
what is enticing about some of these other influencers. A lot of them are really good at marketing
Yeah.
too, where, you know, they're good at making it sound really great. And some of them have great things to say. I'm not going to
Mhm.
shut the world of influencers down. Some of them know their stuff and maybe they do have very thorough training, whether it's traditional medical training or alternative training. So some really do know their stuff. But again, you want to wonder, why does this person have so much time to market these things to me?
Mm.
Um,
They have a team.
and
Got you.
yeah, and it's
No, I'm
like,
just kidding.
where are you spending, how much time are you spending really researching these things and working with real life people? But again, to kind of bridge that gap between,
Mm.
we didn't used to have really influencers, right? Maybe you had some um,
TV.
TV commercials where people were trying to sell you supplements or diet
Or
programs,
really
right? That's
back,
always been there.
yeah, yeah, like the infomercials and the
Yeah.
TV commercials and things like, or what's that, like HSN, or like
Yeah.
the late at night you see those
Home
random
Shopping Network.
commercials.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, back in the day, I think we're showing our age. Like back in the day, it would be late at night, like 4 a.m. You're seeing this like a diet guru talk about this powder or blender with the powder. And then I think more so it's like a news segment. You see a dietitian or like a nutritionist on a news segment
Mhm.
promoting a diet, or Atkins diet back in the day, low carb diets, or doing like a health
Low fat.
segment. That was
Mhm.
like, whoa, you're out there, you're influencing, you're on the news, you're on, you have your own little infomercial late at night on the TV or the radio. Wow. Now it's like, well, go ahead with your point. Now it's like everyone can do that
Yeah.
anytime. So it's
You don't
quite,
need to have a hookup at a TV station
yeah.
or an entire team behind you. Anyone can hop on social media and say, "Hey, this is what I'm saying." So get into it or don't get into it. And sometimes the better that it looks, the better
Or
it
the
sounds.
crazier it looks and the
Yeah,
crazier
true.
it sounds, you're like, whoa, and that gets a lot of attention.
Because sometimes, yeah, people are like, I'm desperate. I'm just ready to
Yeah.
try whatever it takes. And I'm going to try that really extreme diet or that really extreme detox or that really
Hmm.
extreme thing. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes that helps people and they really needed that drastic change. And I think, as helpful as those things can be, it's just important to keep everyone in the loop. Because, we have someone saying,
Hi,
even
everybody.
amongst, yes, hi to those joining
Hi,
us.
Courtney. Hi, Trish.
Yes, hi to those in our community and outside. Someone saying, even amongst medical professionals, really opinions can differ. And
Mm.
that is very true. The messages can be very conflicting. So
Yeah.
then that's where there's so much confusion on social media because you have this person promoting a raw vegan diet and then that person promoting a carnivore diet. And both are saying that they're right. And both are saying that they get
Mm.
results. And both have people who have testimonies. Um,
Do you eat 30 bananas a day or 30 raw testicles a day?
exactly which one is best. Um, And that's where I think none are best or not best for any of us. We're all so unique that I don't believe there's one single dietary pattern that's best for every single
Yeah.
person. We have data to say a predominantly plant-based diet can be really helpful for people, more of a Mediterranean style diet, 80+% plants in the diet, that can be great for people. There's even variance with the types of plants people will tolerate, just
Yes.
depending on what's going on with their gut health, their endocrine system, their
Hmm.
metabolic health, their activity level. So there's not one single diet I think that's going to work for someone, whether it is someone telling you to drink 36 ounces of celery juice every day because that's going to give anybody diarrhea. um, Anybody will poop when you're having that much celery juice. Celery is very fermentable, and having that much celery juice, you will poop. So it is effective. So some of these things, yes, have evidence behind them. But I think also sometimes people aren't very forthcoming as to why these things work, the mechanisms behind them. And it just keeps people coming back for more, where they're like, oh, those 36 ounces of celery juice really worked for me. It got me pooping. So then I need to try eating those 5 pounds of beets that they're saying as well. And I need to cut out all these foods because, this person is saying a spirit told them that those foods are bad, or,
What are you talking about?
whatever it is. Um, but it can really get to you and make you feel really overwhelmed. And so,
Yeah.
we're here. Yes, we're on social media, but it almost gives me the heebie jeebies when people ask us if we're influencers or say we're influencers. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't want to have that.
Try to say we're
We're
educators.
educators. Yes, we provide infotainment. We try to provide evidence-based info in an entertaining way, because
Hmm.
if we were dry as toast, none of you would be here. We would have zero people tuning in. I wouldn't even want to be up there like that. So, uh, I think we're here trying to say, be really discerning when you're following different people. Ask why they're marketing what they're marketing, how they know what they know, and just where they're getting, one, not just the science, but just a real life practical information. I'm even weary of healthcare practitioners who have never worked with patients, because
Mm.
you can do that. You can go through all the training, get the degrees, and never work with a patient. Um, then that's, you can have great information. You can be a researcher
And
who
you can
works
write
behind a
like
desk,
10 books.
totally, and publish tons of studies. But that does not always mean that you really understand a wide gamut and a wide variety of people and what works for them, both uniquely and physiologically, and then psychosocially.
Mm.
I think
Big one.
is such a
Spiritually.
big, yeah, spiritually, and
Mm.
just how you're saying things, and either guilt and shame that it induces for some
Ooh.
people. And that's maybe why they're following what you're saying,
Mm.
or just your status. And maybe some use their status, like, I have these credentials and this alphabet soup behind my name, so everything I say is, gospel, and it's going to be right. So I think it's really important to just kind of ask your provider, why do you think that, you
Mm.
know or, I heard this from my other provider, is there a reason why you two have a different opinion from one another?
Mhm.
Can you provide me some real life scenarios where you've seen this, or some evidence and
Mm.
some data and some studies where you've seen that whatever it is you're recommending to me actually
None of
works?
that matters. They're working with one of the Kardashians, so they're credentialed. Here what we see in Southern California, we're very LA adjacent. We're in Orange County, but we're very close to LA, and even Orange County. That. What about that, Delia? What are you talking about? The person you're mentioning, they work with 10 celebrities, and they can't be wrong if the celebrities are working with them and paying all that money.
Mhm.
Obviously, kidding. You guys know me by now if you've been listening to me, but like there's that too, where, well, what if the celebrity brings this doctor, dietitian, nutritionist, spirit speaker on and says, follow this guy. This person has it all. They have the answers. They've helped me. And then, wow, 1 million people saw that, right? That post got like 10 million views and hundreds of thousands of reshares. And that's what we're speaking on, that influence, right? That tidal wave of influence where like your aunt's talking about it, your cousin, they're asking you questions about it, they're on it, they're doing it. And yeah, it is deciphering that. So those tips Dahlia gave, and then really to summarize that, it is, what is your end goal? What is their end goal? Really diving deep. That's what an integrative approach is. It's diving deeper than the
Mhm.
surface and going, great, celery juice, keto, carnivore, Lion's diet. I mean, there's so many of these diets and fads and push alkaline, all these things. What's the goal of that? Is it to help your gut health? Is it to help your mental health? Is it going to help a rounded way? Is it, to just treat those symptoms a little bit? Like you said, you'll poop with celery juice, great. But is that getting to your root cause? Is that getting you where you want to be? Is it sustainable? Even buying sometimes $500 worth of supplements or products or powders or, every single month without an end goal of like, okay, this is where I want to be in
Mhm.
6 months or 2 years or 3 years, right? So having that integrative end goal is important. And working with someone to accomplish that versus taking generalized, popular, influential advice is a lot better and should be a goal. So that is very important because it's so easy to
Mhm.
get caught up in that. It's so easy to get caught up in the people who are with celebrities and the people who are very popular. It's so easy to get caught up in the marketing, like of all that. Like, yeah, let's hop on this bandwagon and do the TikTok trend, do the eating. I mean, I can't believe how many people, how many influencers like eating now in front of the camera. Like that has really blown up in the last like decade,
Mm.
where you have these influencers making money on just eating tons of fast food. And they are, whether, and this is kind of going the opposite end, influencing a new generation to be unhealthy in a way where you're eating so many fried chicken burgers and hamburgers and fries and sodas because now that's your job and you're making money. And for whatever reason, people like to watch that. And now you're influencing teenagers to be like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go do a Raising Cane's review and review all this food. And it's like, what are you influencing, right? But then to come back to the health aspect of it, same thing when it comes to recommending a protocol. Recommending what
Mhm.
we call medical nutrition therapy is now thrown out like it's free flyers to like a new movie coming up. And it's like, whoa, well, that should be very tailored, very customized, and you should be very careful with that, right? But now it's like, boom, it's the latest thing, it's the newest book, it's the newest craze, and people just kind of jump on board with that. So it can be very daunting. We're seeing, I saw a comment. Let's see. Yeah, here it, one of our comments here. It so gets into your head, also makes you feel that you are broken, too much
Mm.
chatter. Yeah, and that's why we're doing this. We feel that as well. I'm sure all of you feel that, where it's one influencer after the next telling you so many different things. We are here continuously, I think, just to reiterate earlier what we mentioned, over the last 13 years behind a plant-based diet. We're not influencing on a plant-based diet. We're not it's not a plant-based diet fad. We actually feel pretty, we're all about grounding on a solid foundation. And that's also maybe a litmus test and a goal and something to look into. Like, is this provider, influencer, dietitian, nurse, whoever you're listening to, grounded on a firm foundation? Where if you look back at their videos, were they promoting a plant-based diet, a vegan diet, a carnivore diet, then going back to alkaline? What's their like history been? Have they been firmly planted on a solid foundation where, yeah, there can be iterations even within a plant-based diet, but overall, like we mentioned, the Mediterranean diet is one of the most studied diets out there. When you look at those that live the longest, that are the healthiest, that have the healthiest communities and overall thrive, they're eating majority of plants. And when you look at the research of those where now we're seeing maybe some of those pull away from eating plants, um, why is that? What's happening there? And really, it goes back to the gut microbiome. And you've seen us or heard us talk about that previously, understanding again the integrative nature, the deep dive you take on why would gut issues cause somebody to move towards a keto or carnivore or completely abandon fiber and vegetables and fruits. right? Why would that happen? So really understanding that is extremely important. But really that consistency, right? That level-headedness, I think that we like to, I know Dahlia for sure likes to stay into really being level-headed and analyzing and understanding and going, you know what, this makes a lot of sense, rather than hopping on any bandwagons is so important. And
But
yeah.
I will say, I think it 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 is telling if someone says, "Okay, maybe I was promoting a vegan diet because ethically that was my stance," and that's never really been our stance. But now I'm really realizing a plant predominant diet is what is
Hmm.
consistent with the data and what most thrive on. And, I think there's a certain level of respect to be given as well to someone who can say, I was
Yeah.
actually wrong. And
Yeah.
this is why I've changed my stance. And I'm still within that same realm,
Hmm.
but now we know a little bit differently and we're going to pivot accordingly as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, to see someone ping ponging back and forth between, you know, be pure carnivore. No, now add honey and now add fruit to it. And now actually you should eat vegetables. So now I'm adding these certain vegetables.
Buy
It
my vegetable supplements.
exactly. So, again, you want to be a little bit
Discerning.
discerning. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say weary or anything, but be discerning. Like ask questions, get curious. If that person can't answer your questions, that's a red flag
Yeah.
in and of itself of why do you feel like this blanket is good for everyone? Yeah, maybe it's good for you and that's fine for people to share those anecdotes. And,
Hmm.
if I were to come on here and say, hey guys, I've only been eating beets for 3 weeks and I feel amazing, and I have no evidence to say why, um, I would ethically, in my opinion, need to share. I don't have any evidence for this. It makes me feel really good, and
Mm.
and we'll see. And this is an ongoing experiment to see how this continues to go. So if someone you're following isn't saying those things, but really they're using a lot of guilt and shame and scare tactics to make you feel like what you're eating is killing you, right? If their videos are starting that way or their thumbnail is like, doomsday, the world is
Yeah.
over, be really weary or be very discerning of that person because, again, there might be an ulterior motive. And again, we've worked in healthcare for over a decade. So we've seen
Hmm.
it. There's high healthcare burnout. And so, unfortunately, even in healthcare, you see people say, I don't want to work with patients anymore because you need to be able to show up and hold a certain mental and emotional space for people every
Hmm.
single day. So, and that can burn you out, right? Depending on whatever you have going on in your personal life. So, someone can very easily say, I've put in all that work. I do have respect behind my credentials. Let me just sell supplements now. And what's the best way to sell things like that? It's just often appeal to people's emotions.
Yeah.
So if you see that someone's doing that, but you're like, wait, I thought vegetables were healthy for you. Why is that person saying that they're trying to kill me? And that's the reason I have arthritis. Get curious, right? So you can become more
Hmm.
discerning.
God, and there's so many that come to mind. I think ones that we've talked about before, like Gundry, Dr. Gundry, and just to throw some names out there so you guys kind of could put a face to a name, or hopefully, I mean, not to promote them even more, but there are like medical doctors. There are people out there with degrees and with notoriety behind them that are kind of going that route. So it's really unfortunate. What is it? How about
Mhm.
when the person doesn't admit to be a very silent partner or a certain supplement
Of
company?
a certain
Oh,
supplement
interesting. Yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that's again, there are ethics to that. And that's where I think
Yeah.
there's more stickiness with influencers because if I were doing that, I can lose my license. And
Mm,
that's going to hurt me very badly as a healthcare provider. I can
mhm,
lose my license if I'm not being forthcoming with what I'm endorsing or promoting. As dietitians, our accrediting body has actually guidelines of how,
mhm,
even if it's a sponsored post or a sponsored product, they have guidelines on how we as dietitians need to share that with people. So if you're lying about that and you have something on the line, you're going to be a little bit more careful with that. And you're going to, share any conflict of interest you have. But if it's,
Mhm.
Joe Schmo off the street who's like, hey, I'm really good at selling things and I'm not going to tell people that I'm actually invested in this company, they really don't often have a lot to lose. And a lot of the times they're like, well, if you figure out my tactic and you stop buying into what I have, it's okay. I'm so good at selling. 5 million other people are still bought in. So I really
Yeah.
don't care. So all they have to lose is customers.
Mhm.
And yeah, I guess some credibility, but it really doesn't matter as much to
Mhm.
somebody who's like, oh, I don't care. I'll just move on and do something else. So, we encourage you all because someone's asking, you know, how then do we know how to be
Mm.
discerning? Are there any social media accounts you would recommend to follow when it comes to gut health or decoding nutrition information? There are a lot that are out there. And my favorite accounts are the ones who are very curious and the ones who are very non biased.
Mhm.
So they're going to really bring you different perspectives. They're interviewing people, they're discussing the latest data or new meta analyses, and
Mhm.
they're really providing with those different resources. One of them that comes to my mind, who I really like following, is Plant Proof. I really think Simon does a great job with what he does. He's,
Mhm.
yes, plant based and very plant forward, but that's not everybody who he's interviewing. He's very open and honest with what he is, invested in and promoting. And so that's, I would say, one of my
Mhm.
favorites to follow for very gut microbiome as well. Very gut microbiome focused. Not all gut microbiome, but Simon does have
I don't
a
know how
strong
you feel
focus.
about I mean, and then kind of maybe on the opposite that might be a little more biased, so just be prepared with that. But Mike the Vegan does a good job
Mm.
where it's not the kind of podcast format, it's more YouTube, more like video dissertation format where he will say, here's a collection of studies on this topic that people are confused about, you know, let's discuss it. So shout out Mike the Vegan. I think he does a really good job, does have a good background when it comes to just education and experience, and is able to dissect studies and pull them apart and understand them and then communicate them in an entertaining and educational way. He is called Mike the Vegan. So like take that for what it is. I've been 100% plant-based for 13 years, not because I'm vegan, like Dahlia mentioned. We're not ethical vegans. However, we do subscribe to the fact of we don't like to torture and harm and be cruel to animals. And we've seen that in the larger like factory farm movement. There's a lot of different ways where we feed our population that we don't agree with. But again, we're not called like Dahlia and James the vegans. Like, no, but we do it for health. We do it for many reasons. But anyway, so take that for what it is. There's some bias there, whereas the proof is maybe a little more uh, unbiased in a way. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And, I think to be able to discuss that, like,
totally.
I've had a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I didn't know if I should see you because,
Yeah,
you're plant based. And I'm like, I don't care if you're not plant based. I just
yeah,
want you to be able to eat and tolerate plants because that's what's consistent with the data.
right.
So whether you want to eat 1 to 20% animal products,
Hmm.
do what you do you.
Yeah,
I am not gonna judge you for it. I'm not gonna try to convince you otherwise. I have no evidence to do that. And I have no right to do that either. Even if I was an ethical vegan, as a healthcare practitioner, that's not my job. Um,
but to dip a toe in that arena really quickly, we love to understand the background behind that. We love to understand that we do see, and we see in the research and in our experience, you can get pretty much everything from plants. However, what we've done to our plants over the last several millennia, what we've done to our gut microbiome has caused. So this gets into the arena of nutrigenomics, epigenetics, which is essentially fancy ways to say what you eat and do in your life affects your genetics. You can alter your genes to where you're digesting better, more efficiently. You can alter your genes to digest less efficiently. And then you now are relying on animals to digest for you to make things more bioavailable. And therefore, you need to rely more and more on animals. So that's really the quick summary of the carnivore and the vegans, right? And even some vegans who have gut issues, who maybe are like, oh man, I need to do animals again, right? And you see all these influencers who are like, I was vegan, but it was horrible, it didn't work for me. Well, how's your gut microbiome, right? How were the generations before you giving you your gut microbiome? That matters. That's going to shape literally your genetics. That can cause genetic mutations, which then leads you to not be able to process plants as efficiently as your great 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 grandmother did, right?
Mhm.
On top of the fact that your great 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 grandmother didn't have genetically modified organisms and plants that could withstand glyphosate and, Roundup ready seeds, and the list goes on and on, right? So all of that matters. All of that is important context. And we're here for all of that, right? We make plant based programs, but we also meet our patients where they are. We're not just, yeah, you have to be plant based to work with us. Yeah, our program, it's plant based. You have to follow it that way. No, you make it your own because you're all in different areas. You're all in different sections of this journey, and it matters.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And, again, I think it's super important for somebody to be able to say that, like, oh, this is why maybe you maybe even want to be plant-based, but you're not tolerating all the plants.
Exactly.
And that's okay. We'll
Right.
still help you meet your goals. If you want to go back to being 100% plant-based and work on your gut health, let's do that to the best of our abilities. And sometimes we get there and sometimes we don't. But yeah, if a diet brings you shame or brings you this feeling of, I should be able to eat this way, but I can't, and I must be a failure, or
Hmm.
now I hate that diet because it didn't work for me. So there must be something wrong with that pattern of eating. And there's someone influencing you into feeling that way. Again, you want to just get more curious, get more discerning.
And we're very real guys. Like we are very optimistic and positive, but 97 to 95% of Americans are already not getting anywhere near enough fiber. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon, especially with a lot of even people we know on more carnivore diets. It's not going to get any better. What's that going to do to future generations? It's going to have ripple effects. It
Mm.
already is having ripple effects, right? We are losing species in our gut microbiome year by year, decade by decade, new generation after new generation. That's not going to help us digest. So a lot of people, we might have this small little plant-based community who's like, we can eat asparagus and celery and eat raw. And then a lot of people around us are like, we can't eat any of that. We can't digest
Mhm.
it, right? So we want to provide that context of going, you need to digest and tolerate plants, and you can lose that. You can lose that ability. Just like if you were to take enzymes and take too many enzymes, or take too much hydrochloric acid pills, and your body's like, okay, I'm gonna make less hydrochloric acid because you're getting it elsewhere, right? Your body's adaptive. Your body is inherently intuitive to what you're eating and what you're doing, and it will adjust, and it can adjust over generations. So we are seeing that adjustment now. We're seeing it paired with a heavy chronic disease epidemic, and that's no coincidence. It's because they're one and the same. This adjustment we're seeing is our body going like, we don't like all this added sugar, hyper refined carbohydrates, hyper refined fat. Like, we can agree a lot with some of these, even, I guess I would say, more extreme influencers of going, yeah, oils and sugars and hyper processed fats and fruits and all these things. Yeah, when they go super hyper processed, we're not proponents of that as well. Even though it is plant-based or vegan, we don't agree with that being healthy. We are married to health, not married to vegan, not married to carnivore, not married to any of these fat. We're married to health. And just so you all know, maybe we haven't said this in a while, the name comes from, yes, Dahlia and I are married, but we are believers, and marriage is a commitment. You're going to have ups and downs in your marriage. For anyone that's married, you know this. For anyone that's been married past 15 years, Dahlia and I are going up on 11 years as of the date of this recording. And that's wonderful. You're going to have ups and downs, but I am fully committed to Dahlia. Dahlia is the apple of my eye. She's the only woman for me. She's the only woman I'll ever love because she's the love
That's
of my
cute.
life. And so we want you to feel that way about yourself. We want you to feel that way about your
Mhm.
health, because health is so important. Really, health is one of the one of the stones of the foundation of your life. Because if you don't have health, I mean, we know millionaires, and even, I don't know if we know a billionaire yet, but we know very wealthy people, and when they don't have health, they will spend any amount of money to try to get health. They will spend it on doctors or techniques or devices or supplements, any amount of money to get it, because it's so valuable, right? So
Mhm.
all that to say, that's our North Star. It's not about making the most money or trying to sell our product or whatever the case is. It's really about health. And I hope we always stay this way, guys. Guys, you will keep us accountable. If you ever see us slipping, which we're
Yes.
human, please don't, I guess put us up on too high of a pedestal. But the
Yeah.
idea
No.
is to really keep us all in check. We're trying to keep you guys accountable, keep us accountable. We keep our other health care providers accountable. And that's what it's all about, is really having this discussion, having a real discussion, understanding the foundation of this. And really, if we could sum this up, it's taking an integrative approach. And we will echo this for eternity, and going dive deep. Make sure your team is diving deep. Make sure that person on the screen you're listening to is backing and promoting diving deep and taking an integrative approach. That is so valuable and important.
So let's give you some. I love that. Such a great way to wrap it all up. But we want to leave you with just some practical tools and techniques in this
Yes,
wisdom toolbox that we're trying to help
let's
you
do it.
build. So, what are some red flags to kind of look out for to see if you're being influenced into purchasing something that maybe isn't long term, maybe it's not sensible, maybe it's not sustainable? um,
Yeah.
Again, what something that really is going to damage your relationship with food or physiologically cause some
Hmm.
damage. What is that person's background? Not to say non-medical professionals have zero credibility, um, but again, what training or grounds are they speaking of? Because not everybody has that, healthcare background. Some people are just like, I love to learn. I have multiple degrees in
Yeah.
something. We have, others we've met through the social media community who maybe aren't a licensed healthcare practitioner, but so smart,
Very
have so
helpful.
many degrees, are so well read. But if it's like, I was a preschool teacher and I got tired of it. So now I'm talking about health and nutrition and I'm deciding to sell these products, but I've really never done my due diligence to learn how they can affect different people. That's a little bit of a red flag. So if someone's kind of just out there because they're like, well, this can make me money, right? And I have no other stake in the game or interest other than knowing that this can make me money. That's kind of
Big
red
red
flag
flag.
number one
Big
of
one.
there's maybe not that education behind it, passion
Hmm.
to learn behind it, just discernment behind it to know like, okay, maybe this isn't for everybody, so I shouldn't market it that way.
Hmm.
That I would say that's kind of red flag. And that kind of leads to red flag number two of it's for all, right? If somebody's telling you this is for everyone, this is how everyone's going to heal and thrive.
That's a good one.
And, if just every single person did this, we would get rid of all these health problems that we had. That's a red flag too, because it- these issues are so multifactorial
Yeah.
with being transgenerational trauma. If they're not talking about trauma, financial burdens that people go through,
Mm.
if they're not understanding how things like accidents or surgeries or anything else physiological and anatomical could affect why someone could or could not
Hmm.
use that diet or that product.
So you're saying I shouldn't eat 50 bananas for my meal? No, I'm
Maybe
just kidding.
that's not for you. Maybe that's for someone
uh,
out there. But if that person can't tell you why it's not for everyone, that's a red flag. Because when people again
yeah.
come to us and they're like, well, why should I be plant-based? I'm never like, because this and this and this. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why you should or shouldn't be plant-based.
Let's talk about
If
what's
you have
going
an
on.
eating disorder, maybe it's not the right time for you to go plant-based, because it can be another way to
Mm.
just overly restrict yourself. So if that person can't really tell you why or why not, whatever, their product, their diet, their program is not for everybody, that's a little bit of a red flag. If they don't have kind of parameters on, hey, if you have this going on, maybe check in with your personal team if this is right for you.
And I'll say this kind of goes along with the first red flag of the financial, but I would say another red flag is really collecting a large sum of money up front and really having that be
Yes.
like the initial step. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute here. Like again, we do our very best to look at our overhead, and yes, we have staff, and we have a company to run, and yes, we're not a nonprofit. We eventually would love to open one, and that would be great, but we're a company, and so yes, we need to make money to survive and sustain our company. But at the same time, I don't think any of our products are like, you have to give us $5,000 right now. And it's like, there are some products out there like that, whether it's anywhere from two to five to $10,000 to work with somebody, and it's upfront, non-refundable, or maybe you can make two payments of $2,500. Great. And then at the end of it, you're like, man, what really changed, right? I think that's where some have really excellent marketing and kind of pull you into that, and you spend that amount of money, and you're kind of left hopefully feeling better, and that's great. But we've, I think, heard a lot of stories more often than not of people going, I just spent like $8,000, I just spent like $5,000, and I still feel the
Mm,
same. So
or worse.
that, I don't think anything in our practice, and even our program, our SIBO IBS program, is extremely reasonable. And we're not saying, hey, pay this large sum of money up front and good luck. No, it's pay a reasonable amount and get, hopefully our goal is to give you way more than you expected.
But
That's
if
always a goal.
anyone's out there and is, yes,
Is the
asking you to
opposite.
take out a loan so that way you
Yeah.
can get healthier. Again, if they're taking away from one area of your health, you have to become financially unhealthy in order to
Get healthy.
become physically healthy. It's a little bit questionable. So again,
Yes.
just really try to question why that person doesn't think you would continue to pay for their service if they didn't force you to pay a bunch up front. Because again, it's a marketing tactic, and I see it whether it's in dietitian groups that I'm in, or I see it
Mhm.
in non-healthcare professionals or influencers. It is a marketing technique, because they're like, well, then if somebody asks for a refund, you just say no because you've already had them paid for it. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's a little sketchy.
Yeah.
It's a little icky.
Yeah.
And again, makes you question that person's true motives behind helping others.
Yeah. And I guess the common, I mean, we get the idea of some things are non-refundable. We get that, but it's the amount. Like
Yeah.
$1,000+ or $2,000+ non-refundable. Like, wait a minute. Like,
And
think about that, right, for a second. And
yeah.
that's a lot. So yeah.
Another one is someone who's out there saying you will only get better if you use their products.
Hmm.
So that also is a little bit questionable. Um,
Hmm.
because if they're not just saying, hey, ginger's helpful, ginger's in my product that I've created, but ginger in and of itself is helpful, that's a little bit sketchy. So if they're married to no only this product line, again,
Hmm.
whether they're a silent investor in it or they're forthcoming that I formulated this, I created this, I get a kickback from this. If they're
Yeah.
saying this is the only product line that will help you, you want to ask more questions as well as to what if another brand has the exact same formulation? Are they not going to help me? Why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
What again, conflict of interest perhaps do you have going on that maybe you aren't divulging or you aren't as forthcoming with?
Love it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Those are
So,
some big ones, guys, for sure.
yeah, if someone's not over promising, under delivering, that's a great green flag, right? Let's talk about some green flags. If somebody is really willing to talk about the gray areas that are there with literally everything in life. That's a green flag. If somebody is encouraging you to ask questions and not becoming offended or blocking you because you're asking questions, that's a green flag. If they're able to provide you data and links or places where you can learn more, that's also another green flag. So, if again, go with your gut feeling. If you're like, "Ooh, that person triggers my nervous system and I'm complying because they make me feel really fearful or excited or nervous," check in with yourself and ask yourself, "Have I kind of checked off all these different boxes and what's that person doing for me?"
Love it. I love it. Well, we hope this was helpful, everybody. We hope you learned some red flags, some green flags, how influencers are influencing you. And we're always being influenced, but hopefully you're surrounding
Mhm.
yourself with very positive and healthy and wise, well balanced influencers, right? Whether that is in person or online, they're out there. Again, social media can be very positive if you use it in a positive way. And we hope you found the positive side of social media, whether you're watching from one of our social media platforms or later on in our podcast or live and answering questions. So thank you all so much for being here and listening in. We have some other great topics coming up, so we're really excited. You can catch Good Gut Live more frequently. We were doing them twice a month. It might be a little bit more than that. So we're excited to do that a little bit more often. Again, you can catch us on Spotify and Apple and anywhere you find a podcast, as well as YouTube. And you can comment down below if there's a topic you're itching to discuss or want us to get into.
Yes.
And we'll do that in a very as wise as possible, as wise as we possibly
Balanced.
can, balanced in a conscious way.
We are
So
all about balance.
we love it. Thank you guys so much. Remember to go ahead, Dahlia.
Remember to heal with each meal.
Heal with each meal. Until next time, we'll see you on the next Good Gut Live.